Welcome to Powerviz. In this video, we will walk through the newest addition to Power BI's arsenal of visuals, the linear gauge. Designed to revolutionize the way you track progress and visualize targets. The linear gauge offers a sleek, intuitive interface that makes monitoring your data a breeze. What sets the Powerviz linear gauge apart is its versatility and control. From styling options to label customization and the flexibility to set custom targets, you have full control over how your data is presented. Additionally, with its support for small multiples, extensive color schemes, and advanced features like conditional formatting and ranking, the linear gauge offers a comprehensive suite of tools to fulfill all your data visualization needs. So let's dive in and discover how the linear gauge can elevate your Power BI experience. Let's explore some of the variety of samples showcasing the versatile capabilities of the linear gauge. From tracking server CPU utilization to revenue analysis to capacity utilization, temperature monitoring, student mark analysis, and even comparing revenue against targets. We have curated a selection of examples across different domains to illustrate how the linear gauge can elevate your data visualization game. Let's dive in and explore the endless possibilities. So I've imported the linear gauge visual into my Power BI report from the app source, and let me click on this and add this visual to my Power BI report, and let's start building this particular visual. I have the actual value and target value. Now these are the two important fields for you to get started with, and I have the sample data set of the call center where I have the average handle time and the target value. So let's bring in the average handle time into the actual value and the target value into the target value section. I now have the visual created. Now let's head over to the advanced settings where I have a whole host of options available for me to play around with. Before I get into the first option here, which is gauge options, let me show you some of the templates that we have available here for you to choose and start building your visual. So these are the different templates that are available, and if you like any of this template, you can simply click on that particular template and click on apply, and then you can start building that template based on your data set. Now that I have selected this particular template, let's start building this particular visual and look at different options that are available for me to play around. The first option that is available here is the gauge style. I have two different kinds of orientation, which is horizontal and vertical. If I would like to change this to vertical, I can do that. I now have a vertical oriented visual. Let's go back to horizontal. Within horizontal, I have three different styles that are available. The first style here is the linear, the default one that we are seeing here. The next option here is bar in bar. So let me quickly select this. And now I have the bar in bar style available. Let's go back to gauge options here. The third option here is grayed out, which is the cylinder option. This is grayed out because the orientation is horizontal. This is going to work only when we have the vertical orientation selected. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is thermometer. I'm going to click on apply. I now have a thermometer created. So these are the different options that are available, or the different styles that are available. Under vertical, we have one extra style that is available, which is the cylinder. Let's click on cylinder and click on apply. You can see that we've now created a cylindrical style of the linear gauge. Now all the different styles that we saw are highly customizable. Now let's take a look at some of the options that are available here. Let's quickly change this to horizontal and select linear here. The first option that I have available here is to choose the direction of the visual. For example, when I click on apply, I have the direction here from left to right. I can change this to right as well. I can click on apply. I now have the direction from right to left. The next option here is auto scale. When I turn this on and click on apply, this will now auto scale based on the size of the visual that I have on my Power BI report. If the auto scale option is turned off, I can now control the gauge height. For example, if I change this to 50 and click on apply, I can now control the height of the gauge. The next option here is the gauge radius. I have three different options here to choose from. The first option here is sharp. When I click on apply here, I have the sharp corners here. I also have rounded and custom option as well, where you'll be able to control the radius of the corners. The next option here is to enable animation. When I turn this on and click on apply, you can see that the actual values are now animating. You also have an option here to control the animation time in seconds. By default this is 4, but if you would like to increase or decrease, you can do that. Let me turn this off for now. And the next option here is to control the marker. This is the marker that I'm referring to. When I turn this off and click on apply, you no longer see the marker here, but if you would like to change the marker, you can do so here. Let's turn this on. These are the different options that are available. We have line marker, we have a circle, we have a square, we also have a diamond. For example, if you choose a square here and click on apply, you now have a square marker added in your linear gauge. You also have an option here to control the size of the marker. You can increase or decrease the size of the marker and also control the color of the marker of your choice. Now all the formatting options that we saw here remain the same except for the bar in bar. The bar in bar comes with another option here which is called as a deviation bar. Let's turn this on and take a look at what happens. So when I turn this on, you will see that we now have added another deviation bar in here, which is basically giving us the difference between the actual and the target values. You'll also be able to change the display style. By default this is data value, but if you would like to display the percentage change, you can do so when you click on apply. This bar here is basically saying that we have overshot our target here by 24%. You also have an option here to not display anything if you would like to, but let's select data value for now. You also have an option here to control the width of the bar, the font size. You also have an option here to change the bar text color, the deviation bar. If it's a positive color, what is it that needs to happen, and if it's negative, if you would like to change the color here, you can do so by clicking on this particular color. Now these were the different linear gauge styles and orientations, the formatting options that are available under the advanced settings. Now let's head to the next section, which is scale or axis. Let me enable this and click on apply. You can see that we've now added the scale at the bottom of the visual. We have different options here to choose from. The first option here is to choose the position of the scale. I can choose top here and click on apply. I now have the scale appearing at the top of the visual. I also have an option here to control the font family, the styling of the font, the text size, the color of the font, and actual fill as well. I can enable the actual fill here. I have the blue color by default. When I click on apply, I now have the actual values here filled in with the blue color. The next option here is the range. I can turn this on, and by default it is auto, but if you would like to change the range, for example, if you would like to display only from 19 onwards, I can do so. I can click 19 here and click on apply. My scale here only begins from 19. Likewise, you also have an option here to control the max that you want to see here. For example, let's enter 75 and click on apply. I now have the max value of 75 being displayed on this visual. The next option here is the number formatting. Let's toggle this on. You have different options that are available, the absolute values or the percentage. Let's choose absolute for now. You can choose your decimal separator, the thousand separator, the number of decimal places to display, the scaling display here if you would like to display in thousands, millions or billion, etc. You also have an option here to add a prefix or a suffix to your data labels, and there's also an option here to customize styling here in case if you would like to change the styling of thousands or millions. If you want to change that, you can do so right from here. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is target. You can define the target either by field or the custom value. When you choose custom, you can hard code a particular value if you would like to. You also have an option here to enable the target marker. Right now I have the target marker here, which is line. If I want, I can disable this and click on apply. I no longer have the target marker available, but if you would like to have a target marker, there are different types of options that are available. For example, we have circle, we have a square, we have a triangle, the diamond, and also a funnel. Let's choose this triangle here. Let's increase the size of the marker here to, let's say, about 14 and click on apply. I now have added a target marker to our visual. The next option here is colors. There are different color palettes that are available for you to choose from. Right now it is single. I can choose a different color if I would like to. For example, I can choose orange here and click on apply. I now have the actual values changed to orange. You also have comparison colors here. If your actuals are less than the target color, you can choose to display them in red. If it is equal to target color, by default this will display in orange, and if it is greater than the target, then the color here is green. Let's click on apply and see what happens. You can see that our target here is 50, the actuals here is 62. That is why the entire bar here is appearing in green. But in case if the values here are less than the target, then this will appear in red. And the next option here under the color palette here is the gradient. I can apply a gradient to my actual values. I also have an option here to enable mid color of my choice. I can choose the middle color here and then click on apply. I now have the middle color applied to my linear gauge. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is bands. Let me enable the bands here. I have different options here to choose from by value, by percentage, by field, Power BI theme, etc. Let's choose value as an example. I can define the different bands that I want to display on my visual. For example, from 0 to 5, let's say, for anybody who has finished the call in less than 5 minutes, I want to have this in green color. From 5 to 10, I would like to have this in lighter shade of green. Let me choose this. And from 10 to 15, I would like to display this in orange. Let's say I'm going to select this and I want to add another layer here. I can do that. I can choose the value here, 10 to 15, and now I have 15 to max. This is going to be in red for me. I'm going to click on apply. 10 to 15, I'm going to come back here, change the color here to orange again, and now I can click on apply. I now have this different bands that are created. So when I choose a particular employee here, for example, if I choose Andrew here, I can see the target here is 10 and the average handle time is also 10. Let me choose a different employee here, which is John. The target is 10 and the average handle time here is 8. I can see that that is marked here in the lighter shade of green. Let me choose a different employee here. Let's say Sarah, for example. I have the target here in 10, but her value here is 15, which is falling under this dark red. You also have different color palettes here. You can choose to define the color palette here by percentage, by value, by field. You can apply the Power BI theme, or we also have the sequential color palettes. For example, I have 4 different bands here. I'm going to select 4 here and click on apply. I now have the 4 different sequential color palette applied to my visual. Likewise, we also have the diverging color palette here, red to green, blue to green. There are various options here for you to choose from. For example, let's choose the tropic here and click on apply. We have this particular band now applied. From this particular number of classes option here, you'll be able to control the number of colors that you see on that particular visual. You can also make this gradient if you would like to. When I click on apply, I now have the gradient diverging color palette applied to our linear gauge. Let's take a look at the next option here, which is fill patterns. When I enable this option here, I have different options here that I can choose from. I have circles, squares, triangle, star, heart, etc. Let's choose the star here and click on apply. Basically what it does is it fills the entire visual here with the fill pattern that we have selected from this particular drop down. You also have an option here to control the border width. If you would like to increase the border width, you can do so. When you click on apply, the border width has now increased. You also have an option here to upload your custom image. Just make sure that your custom image fill pattern is of size 32 by 32 pixels or less. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is labels. We have 3 different labels here: the actual labels, target labels, and the min-max labels. The first option here is lets you enable or disable the labels. For example, if I turn off the actual labels here, you will no longer see the actual labels here. When I come back here, let's enable this. You have 3 different styles that are available here. You can either choose to display the data value or percentage or both of them. When I click on apply, I now have the data value as well as percentage being displayed here. Let's go back to labels and let's choose data value for now. And the next option here is to choose whether you want the label placement inside or outside. When I click on outside and click on apply, I now have the label being displayed outside here. And let's go back to labels here. The next option here is to choose the font family, the styling of the label here, auto text size here, the text color here. You can also choose the text color here. There are different options here. For example, you can either choose a contrasting color, which will be selected automatically, or you have the fixed text color here, where you get an option here to choose the text color of your choice. The next option here is to enable the background for the labels here. For example, if I choose this gray color here and click on apply, I now have the gray background color applied to the data label. Under labels, the next option here is target data label. The target data label is this one here. I can either choose to turn on or turn off the data label. Like I said earlier, I have different options here where you can control the font family, the styling of the font, the color of the font, etc. I also have the target data label here. For example, right now it's saying target, but you can choose to display any other value if you would like to. For example, instead of just displaying target here, I can choose to display target minutes, and when I click on apply, this will now change to target minutes. You can also control the font family of the target label, the styling of the font, the size of the text color of the font, the background of the font. The last option here is the min max. When I enable this and click on apply, you now have the min and max labels being displayed on this particular visual. You also have an option here to control the font family, the styling of the font, the text color, etc. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is small multiples. So when you add small multiples here, for example, I have the overall department values being displayed here. But if you would like to take a look at by employee, you can add small multiples to this. Or if you would like to take a look at different departments, you can add small multiples. So let me bring in the employee name here into small multiples. I now have 5 different visuals created by employee, and I can very clearly take a look at what exactly is happening between all of them. I can see that this particular employee, John, has met the target. This particular employee, Lauren, has not met the target. I can also change the band color here to be very clearly able to see that who has met the target and who has not. So when I come back into the small multiples here, under layout, I have different options here to choose from. The first option here is the layout type, which is grid, and the display type here is fluid. I can change this to fixed here and choose the number of rows and columns that I would want to display. For example, if I want to display all of them here in one single row, I can do that and just have one column here and click on apply. I can have one column here and 5 different rows. And the next option here is scaled rows. We have 2 different options here under display type, fixed and fluid. Let's go ahead with fixed now. I can choose to display the number of columns that I want. Let me click on apply. I now have 2 different columns being displayed. Likewise, I can go back to small multiples and control the inner spacing here. Let me increase this to 10 and click on apply. You can see that the inner spacing here has increased. Likewise, we also have an option here for outer spacing. If I increase this to 20 and click on apply, you can see that the outer spacing has now increased. So let me go back to small multiples here. The last option that we have here is the ranked panels. I can choose the fixed display type here and display just one column here, for example, and click on apply. You can see that we've now sorted this by the ranking here. The Lauren here has 20 hours, and when I scroll down here, the last one that I have here is John. The next option here is to control the header here. You can choose how you want the header to display. For example, I have title and total value that is being displayed here. If you would like to change this to title only, you can do that when you click on apply. And you can see that we are now only displaying the name of the employee. We are not displaying the value that was available. And you'll also be able to control the font family, the styling of the font, the text size, color, the alignment. If you want to display that in the middle, you can do that. When I click on apply, I now have the value being displayed in the middle of the visual. The next option here is the general option, where you can enable a background if you would like to. For example, let's say if you want to have this light blue background, you can do so. When you click on apply, you have a light blue background now applied to our visual. Let's go back to small multiples here under general. You also have an enable alternate background here. You can do so. For example, for one of the visual here, we have the blue background, and for the other visual, we have this cream background. And then the next option here is the border. We right now have a border here. We can increase the width of the border if you would like. Click on apply. We now have the border being applied. You can choose different options that are available under the border. If you would like the dashed line, you can do so. We also have an option here to add a shadow. There are multiple options that are available here to choose from. We can have a standout. You also have a custom, where you can decide the direction of the shadow and the color of the shadow as well. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is ranking. Let's enable ranking here, and if you would like to just display top 2 or bottom 2 employees here, you can do so. For example, let's take a look at bottom 2 here, because we would like to identify who are the ones who have achieved the target. Let's select 2 for example, and then let's uncheck this box which says show remaining as others and click on apply. I'm now displaying the information related to bottom 2 employees who have the least amount of average time. Likewise, I also have an option here which says show remaining as others. I can group the rest of the employees as others. In this case, it might not really work, but if you have any other scenario, this is definitely going to work. Now like this, if you would like to see who are your employees who have the highest amount of average handle time, you can do so by simply clicking on top N and click on apply. And these are your 2 employees who have the highest amount of average handle time. Now let's take a look at the next option here, which is sorting. Let's enable sorting here. I can sort by field, which is the average handle time that I have in my data set, the average of my target value, or the employee name. For example, let's choose average handle time here and choose the sort order as ascending. When I click on apply, you can see that John is the employee who has the lowest amount of average handle time, whereas the Lauren is the employee who has the highest amount of time. The next option here is conditional formatting. The conditional formatting will not work when I have the bands enabled. So let's go to bands here and turn off the band, click on apply. Without the band, I can now go to conditional formatting. I can start adding new rules to my conditional formatting. I can now choose how I want to conditionally format the visual based on either value, the percentage, or by ranking. Let's choose value for now. Let's select the measure here, average, and let's say less than. If it is less than 10, then I want to display the color here as green. I'm going to add another rule here where we can say that if the value of average handle time is greater than 10, then this needs to display in red, which means that this particular employee has not met the target. And now you can clearly see that we have employees John, Michael here who have values less than 10, which means that they have met the target, and these are the other two employees who have not met the target. The reason why this has not changed is because we don't have any condition here which says that when the person is on target, we don't have any color. The next option here is import export. This will help you create a template of your own. Let's say, for example, you have created a particular visual, you have applied all the formatting based on your preferences and choices. You can simply go to the export option here, copy this particular code and save that as a JSON file, and then come back to the import section here, and you can now upload that JSON file here and import your personal theme. The last option that we have here is the show condition. Now the show condition here works on the Boolean value. You can choose to display or not display the visual based on a certain condition. For example, let me just reduce the size of this visual here, and let's say, for example, I have a department filter here, and let's change this to a slicer. Unless you select any value from this slicer, you do not want to display this particular visual. So let's see how we can do that. I'm going to create a new measure here. I'm going to check if my department column is filtered or not using an if condition. I'm going to say if is filtered the department column, then return 1, else return a 0. And then I'm going to confirm this. Let's close this. So let's come back here. Let's select the visual and let's scroll down here. We have an option here to show. I can bring this measure here into the show section. And let's go back to our advanced settings now. I have the show option now enabled. Let's go to the show condition. I have the option available here, which is enabled automatically. I have the message that needs to be displayed. With right now it says show chart condition is not fulfilled. I have the icon here. I can control the styling, the text size, etc. Let's click on apply for now. Let's go back to the report, and when I uncheck the department here, it says that show chart condition is not fulfilled. And when I check this box again, I will now be able to display this visual. Now that we have looked at all the features under advanced settings, there are a couple of more options that are available here. The first option here is the annotation. We can add in annotation here. Let's say, for example, if you would like to add in some additional information for the end users to know, you can make use of the annotation feature. Let's say, for example, I want to add an annotation here. I can just say this is a sample annotation. And there are various options here. For example, you can choose the different connector here. For example, polygonal line. You can choose the stroke here between solid dash, the kind of marker that you would like, the badge that you would like to display. And when you click on apply, you have a new annotation created. When you hover over this, you'll be able to display the information that you would want the end user to know. The next option here is the grid view. When you click on grid view here, you'll be able to see the data in a tabular format. There are some more options available here under format options. You can customize your size and style. Importantly, we have the number formatting here. If you would like to change the decimal separator, thousand separator, the decimal places. If you don't want to display any decimal places, you can do so from here. The last and important feature that we have here is the footer information. For example, if you would like to display a summary of this particular visual, you can do so right from here. You can also add a web URL if you would like to. You can add a divider if you would like to. You can choose the divider color, the thickness, the color. A lot of formatting options that are available here for you to choose from so that it will meet your needs and preferences. With this, we've come towards the end of the walkthrough. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Powerviz Linear Gauge. We hope this walkthrough has provided valuable insights into harnessing the power of this dynamic visual. Don't forget to subscribe our channel for more tutorials and updates on Power BI visuals from Powerviz. If you have any questions or want to see more examples, feel free to leave a comment below or reach out to us directly. Until next time, happy visualizing.